right, rock and roll. So let's go through here. We have a front view of Rodriguez here, and we can kind of see his stride and how he loads. And you can barely see the pitcher on the left side of this screen, but see how his arm, you can see the pitcher's, I'll put a little arrow over there. So we're talking about timing here. He's got his arm out, right, which means his throwing hand is down and back. And as his front arm goes down, right, his back arm's probably coming up. And that's exactly when Rodriguez is lifting his foot. So if we look at, those two arrows, the pitcher's arm pulls down, and that's like pulling his foot up. And then by the time the ball is released right about there, he's about it at the top of his swing. Now you can see he's got a pretty good, barrel tip out this way. Okay, he gets his back elbow up really high. That's fine. Okay, but the key is, how does he get to the launch position? There's toe touch, and then we get to heel plant. And this is what I really like. And this is hard to get some players into this position. It's actually very hard to get players into this position. But it's almost a straight line across his back and shoulders, right? And see how his back elbow connects to that line? There's so many players. I had a player last night that I was working with from a local high school, and most of the guys from that high school, they don't work with me. They work with another guy in town that's more of the, slot that back elbow really early and then turn really fast. Okay, so that's kind of their problem. And so they talked about, you don't want your back elbow in that position, when pretty much everybody we've looked at here at heel plant has their elbow in that position. So be very cautious. Yes, it's going to come down, and we'll talk about that, and we'll see that in a second. But just, that's a really good line from the front. That's one of the things that I look for is when that front foot lands, our hands still back behind our head and about ear height, and is our front shoulder closed. We can see his entire number here, 44, and we can also see both of his eyes. So he has good flexibility in his neck, which allows him to close off this much. If we look at his heel line here, I would say it's pretty, I can't see the batter's box line, but there's his heel line. Is that about parallel to that? Yeah, so he's square. That's very good. He's not closed. He's definitely not open. And then if we go a little bit further, I'm going to draw a line for his posture. That's one thing that is very popular today, keeping your posture after heel plant. And we'll see if he keeps it. So there's his spine angle, and he keeps it pretty good, right? Like, that's still his spine angle as he rotates around it. I would say, even though his spine is very good there, let's see what his head does. Does his head come up a little bit? A lot of times when the head lifts, it could be just the head, but usually if it lifts up and out, then the spine isn't as good. You can see his kind of comes in just a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of head movement on this through the swing. So you'd like to keep that a little bit more stable, but it's not bad at all. The other great thing to see on this angle is why he's successful and why he's going to be successful, and we talk about this a lot. His vertical bat angle, this pitch is down. Let's see if I can get an angle on it, though. Yeah, this pitch is down. He's only at 29 degrees. Or it's at the thighs. He's only at 29 degrees. But look at where he is after. Look how his barrel stays on that. It's still on that line. Here it is over here at 28 degrees. Okay? So this is really, really cool as he rotates around here. As he has good coordination. Even though he's extending, there's no wrist manipulation. He's keeping his vertical bat angle consistent. Why is that important? Well, if you get to contact it, whatever we said that was, 29 degrees or so, okay? I don't think I drew that line properly. Okay. Oh, that was after. Go back one more. Here we go. So 29 there, and maybe he flipped it a little bit and it ended up being 26 or so. But if you have a big manipulation there, that either leads to weak fly balls to right if you drop your vertical angle. So if your vertical angle went from 29 to like 39 or 40, okay, then you'll slice the inside of the ball. Or if he flipped it up and it went less and it went to 20 degrees instead of 29 degrees, then you'll tend to roll over. So that's why, all the drills we have where we're focusing on hand path from launch to contact are so crucially important. Okay, we can see, look at me, I'm excited. This may have been a playoff game. I think it was. This was a very low line drive, by the way. This was a 17-degree home run, which is pretty insane. Probably had a little top spin at 17 degrees would be my guess. So let's go ahead and go to the side view, and you'll see he's got a pretty big move, right? I mean, as he strides, okay, we'll let you guys figure out who we think he looks like when he strides, but here's his eye level. He's got a pretty good leg kick, and then you're going to see his eye level drop a decent amount, right? And like we've talked about before, most players do that. What you don't want to do is go the opposite way, which is very common now. Players overload into their back hip. They overload into their back leg. Then when they go to step, their head goes up. And that's one of the things I see. One of the cool parts about my job is seeing trends, because I've been doing this and video analysis I've been using since probably 2003, is I've seen how swings change and what's taught and what's hot on the internet, and all of a sudden it shows up in the players. And why do players typically send me videos? They usually don't send me the videos because they're like the greatest 14-year-old in their town. They're trying to get better. They're struggling somewhere, and so they're looking for help. And so a lot of times I see all these trends on whatever, Instagram or Twitter. I'll see them show up in all these players, all these different moves, and unfortunately it's leading to a lot of problems. So that's one of them, players that are trying to load too much into their backside artificially, then all of a sudden their heads lift like 6 inches when they go to stride. So be cautious of that, you people or coaches out there that are listening. As we get him a little bit further, you can see he gets super wide. So the distance between his arches are definitely that base is wider than his inseam. Okay, so of 10 players that I see on a regular basis, if there were 10 new players I'd see in person, 0 of them would have a base wider than the sides. Okay, everybody I kind of see is more narrow and spinny now. They're really focused on turning fast and kind of turning the shoulders to turn the hands. And sometimes that's good, like on an inside pitch. That's kind of the thought process. But it's not. I'm not seeing a lot of leg drive, which is what we see here. Look at him sink into his back knee here. So that's pretty good, right? Like if you take him to the spot where his heel plants and then watch his back knee come in, and as soon as his back knee comes in, his back hip comes with it. Okay, and it freewheels through. Now, if we look at him, he has a little bit of a drift. Okay, so I'm going to put this line right in front of his nose at heel plant, and he's got a drift because he's really wide, and you have to stabilize a little bit. So he goes forward maybe an inch or two. You do see that head kind of come up a little as he comes through. But then everything is, let's see his back foot. Yeah, his back foot's got to move a decent amount because he's so wide. Okay, but see how low his back foot is? That's what this has been a hard thing for me lately as well with whatever players are being taught or doing is this foot isn't, see how his foot's moving forward, but his heel is in front of his toes? So many players I'm seeing where the heel is back and the toes are forward. They're just pulling their toes forward. So instead of the foot, this is somewhat hard to draw, but his foot's on an angle like this, heel to toe. I'm seeing the heel there, but the toe in there. Okay, and so it looks funny, and when the heel flexes forward, that's what pushes the knee in. So they're moving their foot, but they're not getting the benefit. They're not doing it for the right reason. And so one of the things I'm trying to tell players to do a lot is, keep these toes in the ground as long as you can. Yes, your foot can move forward. That's great because this hip's got to come through. And the hip is coming through, the knee's coming through, right? We all know that I'm a big proponent of the knee. If the knee moves forward, the back foot's going to move forward. That's just the way it is. But we don't want this foot to do it by itself. A lot of people are trying to move the foot to like move the knee and hip, and then it's artificial. I want that knee to come down and in and then start working towards our front knee, and that action pulls the back heel forward, but it keeps the toes in the ground. So, be cautious of that, you players out there. Keep those toes in the ground. He firms up his front side really great. His back leg, I mean, he's got a great swing, right? And obviously this was a home run. If we look at his back shin, see how low it is in his power V position, in his extension position. Again, this was a ball he pulled. He hit out in front. So his power V is going to be more to the left. Okay? Again, this is his power V with his arms. Creates a V there, and his bat's shooting right out it. If it's an outside pitch, that's just going to face more towards the center of the field, maybe right center field. And then if we look at his swing plane, as he rotates here, his back elbow's coming down, his back shoulder's coming down, but he started to rotate. There's still space in here. Okay. So if there's not space in here, if this elbow comes down too soon, then what does the bat do? Then the bat goes back here. Look how close the bat is to his head. That creates a short path. Okay. Then it comes here. Now all of a sudden that bat's still pretty close to his ear, close to his shoulder. Knob and elbow are in line here. That's very, very important. Make sure the knob's not in there, right? That's bat drag. Okay. So he's not leaving his hands behind, which is what I see with a lot of young players. He's getting his hands, out in front of his armpit. That's what we're trying to do. Got to get the hands in front of that back armpit. And then his barrel plane, this frame rate's not the best, so I have no idea connecting the dots here, but I'm going to say he's probably on a swing plane like so. Okay, he probably drops in. Let's see if I can freewheel this thing. Yeah, he's probably kind of dropping in here like this. And then he's probably maybe coming up and out of it. He's probably a little bit flatter than that. So he definitely has a good swing plane. He's got a great combo swing plane, meaning he drops underneath a little, maybe a half a ball, right? Maybe a quarter of a ball. So by only dropping underneath that much, that means he's not going to miss as many balls, right? His misses will be fouls. But it also gets him to the bottom of the ball, and then he swings up a little bit more. So that combination gives you a little bit more of a launch angle on balls you hit out in front versus rolling over balls out in front. So this is a good combination for him. It kind of makes sense, that he's 30 home runs and 280, right? That's a pretty good combo. If he starts to drop his barrel a little bit more, say kind of down and back into here, and then he's got to come back up to the ball more, then what you're going to see is, maybe you're going to see 30-plus home runs, okay? But you're going to see maybe like a 255 average, something like that, okay? So everyone does what they do, and you can slightly tweak those kinds of things. But with him at age 22, you would just let the horse run, man. This guy is a physical guy. So anyway, that's kind of a cool breakdown of his swing. And again, 117 miles an hour at 17 degrees. That ball's pretty much squared up. He didn't bottom half that and backspin it into left field. If he did, just to give you an idea of how things work, say he was a little bit more level through the zone. He didn't come back up and hit it. Maybe he kind of cut through the bottom half of it, kind of Pujols that ball. Then you would see this exit velocity go to like 105. Okay, but his launch angle would have increased to like, 30 degrees or 28 degrees, something like that. Okay, so that's kind of how it works when you hit different parts of the ball, right? The hardest balls you ever hit are typically low line drives because the pitch is only coming in at, say, 4 or 5 degrees. So if you hit a ball at, say, 5 to 10 degrees off the ground, you're hitting most of the ball. If you're hitting if a ball's coming down at, only 5 or 6 degrees, actually, I think this was a breaking ball, if I'm not mistaken. Was this a breaking ball? Let's go back to the front. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a breaking ball. So this ball was dropping a little bit more. So guys that typically swing up more, that have more of an uppercut, maybe an average attack angle in the 15 range, those guys are going to hit breaking balls better. Why? Because when breaking balls enter the zone, they enter the zone a little bit steeper. Let's see if we can kind of see this. I don't know with the frame rate if we will. Could have been why he was slightly out in front too, because this pitch was a little slower. So he made his, I don't really see the frame. I don't think he's hit it there yet. I can try to connect the dots. Here's the ball. Here's the glove. Yeah, so you can see this pitch was more in that 8-degree trajectory coming down, where if it was a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, it'd probably be at like 5 degrees.
So, all right, great breakdown this week, mechanical breakdown series.